Hey, good afternoon, Justice Warriors. How are you guys? It's Friday, and yes, my voice is still wackadoodle. So, I'm pretty sure it's allergies, I've determined, so I'm taking my allergy meds, and I don't mind keeping my voice down, but the brain fog, that I mind. So, unless I'm just going to sit on the couch and veg, which, I just don't have that opportunity too often. Anyway, I want to get into discussing a little bit of this Idaho 4 case today. It's Cinco de Mayo. I hope you guys are enjoying yourself. It's an amazingly gorgeous, perfect spring day here in Ohio, which we haven't had that for a while. Anyway, everything I say is simply my opinion. It's simply for the sake of conversation. I hope to open up a discussion. I hope to be educational, and I hope to get educated. So all my videos are made specifically for YouTube, and that's an entertainment platform. Please hit the like button if you'd be so kind. Share and subscribe if you're interested. So I just want to jump right into it with this Idaho 4 effery. I'm sure everybody following Idaho 4 knows that there was a mass download of paperwork yesterday. So I was fortunate to catch what's the 411 with Jay while she was going through it with a fine tooth comb. And at one point, I thought to myself, wow, so I've been all wrong. This guy is guilty AF. Look at all of those items that they took from his apartment. There's dozens of things that are potentially blood and hairs. Dozens. And then somebody mentioned in the chat to look at the boxes to the right where it said positive, negative, and it had some other categories. So all of them except for one were marked negative. So none of them were the red stuff. One of them that was marked positive, I think that one was a hair. And for all we know, it could be the defendant's hair. But what's more important to me is the way law enforcement tries to play people, because they know that people don't know how to read those forms. They know that people aren't going to notice that positive and negative, and that they might not even know what that means. So they're kind of banking, in my opinion, banking on the fact that people are just going to look at that list of a couple of dozen items that make him look like, without a doubt, he did this. So I was thinking, wow, how did I get it so wrong? But then I was like, oh, we're still in the same place. So the last few days, there's been a lot of rigmarole about Wazoo Kim and Detective John, and they've been on T-Rev Lives, and I've caught some of that. I've also caught a couple of Subconscious Mouth videos that he's dropped where he talks about it. And, I'm a big fan of T-Rev. I'm also a big fan of Subconscious Mouth. So I wanted to discuss for a moment that whole thing. And the gaslighting is just incredible. So one of the things that Subconscious Mouth talks about in his most recent video is how when somebody is a detective, that they're going to have a lot of clout on YouTube. And I think that that's appropriate for him to say that. And that it's also a big responsibility that if you're going to advertise the fact that you are or were a detective, that you need to be really careful with what you're endorsing or what you're challenging. So I just think that's important to keep in mind. A couple of things that Subconscious Mouth talks about that are hard for a lot of us to talk about, and I've talked about it quite a bit, but it's still hard. I don't enjoy mentioning anything about it because I wish that it just weren't even a thing. It's that Titanic ritual abuse activity that we know happens. It may or may not be part of the situation with the Idaho 4 case, but we know that it goes on and that it's been going on for a long time. I'll put a link in my description of this video to the case that I sometimes refer to, which was like back in the late 80s in Thurston County. It was the Thurston County sheriff who was sued by his daughter for essentially losing her in a poker match when she was 6. And it was all related to the community type of activity. The whole sheriff's department was related to that type of activity. And that was a profound case. It was precedent setting, but I don't think there's been anything like it since. And of course, people that were involved that admitted to things, like the sheriff, the father himself, has since gone back and and retracted all of his confessions and admissions. So, there's a whole lot of effery, and yeah, you can't talk about that stuff. You can't let that cat out of the bag and not suffer the ramifications. So you better take it back or else. Anyway, I also wanted to talk about the body cam video that came out yesterday. So Paula Plunder and Jay with what's the 411 with Jay, which is also the same person as Jay's for Justice. But Paula Plunder and a handful of others, they played that body cam video footage from, I think it was October 14th of 2022, where a female officer pulls the criminal defendant over for running a red light. Essentially, it sounds like he got himself stuck in an intersection, and then he cleared the intersection, and that's why she said, "You ran a red light." So, I'm not a fan of his. I'm really not. I don't think necessarily that he's guilty of what he's accused of, but he is guilty, in my opinion, of being a trickster, of obfuscation. That's a big word for me. That's a tough one. And he's very duplicitous. That's another big one. Diabolical. Um, he's a gaslighter. He tries to confuse. So, in his conversation with the female officer, he was extremely polite and well spoken, and yet rude. Rude AF. Insulting, condescending, and definitely was uh, dumb like a fox, trying to uh, worm his way out of a ticket, in my opinion. One of the things he said that I thought was hilarious. I caught it the first time, but I had to watch it a couple of times to really be like, wait a second, what? Where he said, where I'm from in Pennsylvania, we don't actually have crosswalks. And I thought, is this guy trying to sell the officer that he doesn't know what a crosswalk is, that he's never seen one? Anyway, hilarious. And of course, he's talking about out in the rural country of Pennsylvania. And sure, they probably don't have crosswalks in some of those areas. But obviously, in Pennsylvania, I'm going to bet you even in rural areas, they have crosswalks. And he knows the rules, and he just, it's a tricky situation. And I think in situations like that, a lot of officers would just give you a verbal warning. But if you're going to be a jackass like that, they're gonna like kind of pretend not to notice, but they're gonna give you a ticket. So I think that's what happened there. But I wonder, because it seems like he has a pattern of getting pulled over for a lot of little teensy tiny things. I wonder if law enforcement know of him. They know what an attitude he has and how he thinks he's some kind of expert that's going to, I don't know, reinvent police work and how to do detective work and forensics, and especially technological forensics. So he thinks he's like ahead of the game and all cutting edge. And you can see where that would really miff people. And of course, they're going to be after him. And of course, they're all going to be laughing about him around the cooler when they're hanging out at work, and telling their stories. Well, I pulled him over the other day and this was what happened, right? I could see that happening. I'm not saying that it did because I don't know for a fact, but it seems very likely. These are small communities. Here's, Mr. Fancy Pants who is working on his doctorate degree and applying to the police department. And these are small towns. And I'm sure he's not the first doctoral seeking student to apply to the police department. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's kind of a pattern, not just for that department, but for others too, that they just don't like these ivory tower types that come in and try to act like you know, their savior, right? So anyway, he was definitely trying to confuse the female officer, and she wasn't having any of it. He was being evasive. He was unclear. He was like, "Oh, I'm so confused. Tell me again what I should do in a situation like that." And she was cool. She was like, "Yeah, just don't get yourself into that situation." MF. Trying to keep it clean. Anyway, yeah, what a jerk. I mean, that's really disgraceful and just awful. I think if you just said to a police officer, "Oh, yeah, I know I shouldn't have done that. I'm really sorry," I think they'd probably just give you that verbal warning and say, "Good enough." But when you're trying to play dumb like a fox, they know that game. They do that game. I call it the Columbo. That's what they do. So she was kind of doing the Columbo, acting like she didn't realize that he was kind of being a prick, and he was being sexist towards her, in my opinion. So it made him extremely dislikable to me, in my opinion. But so one of the only things that was positive on that list of a couple of dozen things, I said it was a hair, but I just remembered it was not a hair. It was a mattress cover that looked like it tested positive for the red stuff. So he's got a little bit of red stuff, I think was how it was construed on his mattress cover, that tests positive to be red stuff. And that seems reasonable. People get blood on their mattress covers and such, on towels, and, we all cut ourselves, we all bleed, right? Anyway, there was just one or two other things I wanted to touch on before I wrap it up here. One of them is the BS of law enforcement trying to construe a motive for the criminal defendant to be the perp for the Idaho 4. And it seems to me that their strongest argument is that he was bullied in school and that he has issues because he got a letter that said he lost his teaching position. I've never seen the receipt for that letter. I doubt that that letter exists. It doesn't fit with the rest of the story of the school. Basically, they cut him loose from all affiliation with themselves right after he got arrested. So that letter is, I think, a huge crock. That letter that Ashley Banfield says she has. And like I said yesterday, even if that letter exists and even if it's actually real, that still doesn't mean that he is, in fact, the perp. That would just show that, yes, there could be some logic, some method to the madness if you're looking for a motive, which is what I feel like law enforcement are looking for. Um, but yeah, where are we at? We're already at 15 minutes. Let me just wrap this up real quick. I'm going to do my little like button again in the bright light. Please hit that like button if you'd be so kind. I'd much appreciate it. I know hardly any of us ever hit the like button because it's such a pain in the arse. It takes like a whole half a second or tenth of a second. And yeah, it just cracks me up because I think 5% of viewers usually hit the like button. And I would think that more than 1 out of 20 like the video, or they wouldn't keep watching them. But I don't know. That's just me. That's just my opinion. Anyway, it does a lot to help the algorithm. And as you guys know, I'm pretty new at this. I've been building my channel. I'm super excited about it. It's been 8 months. I've gotten over 500,000 views. I just surpassed my 3,500 subs. And I don't know, I have well over 300 videos. So, what would that be? Average, like almost 2 a day? Because, yeah, there were times where I was definitely pumping out 2 a day religiously. These days, I'm down to just 1 a day pretty religiously. I do skip a day here and there, but I can't stand skipping a day, you guys. I really enjoy this process. So thank you for watching. Have a great afternoon, and I hope you are preparing to have a fabulous weekend and can enjoy some fresh air, some sunshine, really good self-care, maybe cooking and cleaning, or maybe just eating out and chilling out, right? That sounds more like it. Anyway, get some exercise. Definitely get your sleep. Get caught up on your sleep if you fall behind during the work week, which I know so many of us do, and it's really hard on your system. You have to have your sleep, and you have to have your veggies. So eat your veggies, eat your high protein, drink your water, stay hydrated, be kind, demand kindness from others, and it should go well, right? And, even when you do everything right, shit goes sideways. So just take care, take it easy, be careful, stay safe, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks a ton for watching. I really appreciate you guys.